to play as well later on today. And if that gap opens up to a 2-game game gap, then the final week of games has to go perfectly for them to even dream about making it to playoffs. So this really is a must-win game for Lightside, and I can't understate that enough. For Domino, if they lose this game, it's not all, said and done. But of course, they would like to secure their position in that top sort of 5-4-ish spot moving into the final week of games.
And I mean, this is a good opportunity for Domino as well if they can take themselves the win, as we've moved into picks and bans, but there's nothing too exciting on the ban list. With just a case of, if they win this game, Flung and, Rate, who are both and that 3rd, 4th place spot at the moment, have played each other before the end of the season. So winning games is an excellent opportunity for them to potentially make their way into a slightly more favourable matchup going towards playoffs. But of course, they need to secure playoffs first, and that is what they're looking to do against Lightside, who are going to be banning Rek'Sai as the final ban into Sidon. Interesting to lead that one out, and Domino need to decide what dark arts has Bloodsteel got for us today, because we know a lot. I mean, there's a lot of options.
Jinx. I mean, it's Jinx, Felios, they're all up. Gonna go for the Kai'Sa. Like, though they did it again, and it didn't look too bad on Tuesday. Unfortunately, they just weren't really able to close out the game, of all things. So now let's see how Lightside want to open on their draft, because with the likes of the Rek'Sai and the Riven Ban and things like that earlier in the TF off the table, a lot of the ST80 carries all up, Zeri's up. He very rarely actually makes it through. But we will just see this Jinx come through on the lock-in, and I mean, if Lightside are playing fully to meta right here, they just go for the Zins out and they just sit and wait for Domino to lock in their champions.
I mean, do Domino look at the Zeri potentially? Because Jinx into Zeri is not the most pleasant experience in the world. The Volibear is going to be taken in for probably his Victor in the jungle. It could, of course, go into that top side, but it's unlikely. So for Domino, whether they want to go for that Kai'Sa in the bot lane, whether it's mid, whether they want to find the Zeri, whether they want to leave it open as a potential, who knows what we're doing with this Kai'Sa. There's a lot of interesting opportunities. And of course, stuff like the Xin Zhao, Jarvan, Lee Sin, all available. There's priority picks. All of the supports except Karma are left open. Stuff like the set, which everyone's been hovering, finally will be locked in for Ripped. Interesting draft so far.
Yeah, very interesting. I would expect at the very least for Domino to lock in their jungler in this rotation. Of course, Kai'Sa, the expected role is the mid lane. It still can end up in the bottom lane, but Jinx is a matchup historically which has just not favored the Kai'Sa at all. You lose lane, you get outscaled. It's not really the best one to go for here, so let's see what they do. They will just go for the Ezreal here and now. So a lot of poke coming in. AB's comp, actually, in the making.
They saw the last game and they were like, well, if it beats a monster, it'll probably beat Lightside. Let's just lock it in.
Exactly. So let's see now how Lightside themselves want to respond. If they want to go for a mid laner into this Kai'Sa, they saw the Syndra ran into it by Chimera last game, and it seems like they also agree that this matchup is fairly favorable for the Syndra, and now they have the opportunity to ban away some junglers, I would expect.
Now this is the question. Do they ban away junglers because there are too many S-tier junglers realistically left available? Do you just ban 2 of them, or do you go somewhere else?
You can do one or two things. You can ban out the junglers, or you can do something like I'm not too sure. I just feel like the only other viable bans would have been maybe like Jace, if you feel like Set's going to be flexed into the jungle like magically, and then maybe also something like the Yuumi if you're expecting extra Yuumi on the bottom side. Like,
well, I was going to say something like the Nautilus. Is that not a valuable ban away?
That's also something as well. Like there are still like options there, but it's more or less about what Lightside prioritize the highest. Having their sort of the potential lanes they would want to ban away are also the lanes that they still have yet to pick. So it is a little bit difficult in that regard. But I'd expect the Xin Zhao or the Jarvan, something that can just get on top of the Jinx and the Syndra, and it will just be the Jarvan to round this one out. And for Domino, could just go for the Thresh. They want to keep the Jinx safe net gone, but they won't do that. They will go for the Tryndamere ban instead. They feel like Svene may take that one on R5. And for Lightside, looking at an aggressive support option. Not sure what one they want, as they hover through the selection of what is considered the S tier / A if you're looking at Alistar. No pun intended for the support role.
It wasn't really a pun, it's just the letter that it starts with, isn't it? There you go, Nautilus. Also has an A in it. Fun fact for you.
Oh, but Alistar starts with
I
A.
get that, but if you take away the N from Nautilus,
Nautilus.
yeah, it's an A as well. Now Domino are going to reveal the finalities of their draft. Of course, we know pretty much where everything's going, unless they really want to throw the toys out with the pram, put Ezreal mid and Kai'Sa top, which seems unlikely, realistically. Alistar being the hover, going to be locked in for Den, getting that tanky frontline alongside the set. This is going to be true front to back. Now it's just a question of what goes into the jungle for them. Maybe they need something that can really get onto that Jinx. The Xin Zhao leaps out to me aggressively, whether they want to go for something tanky to be a real big 3-2 frontline. I'll have to wait and see. A part of my body says Zach, but
it wouldn't be too bad, but okay. This is interesting. So this means that this is either Aatrox jungle or Set jungle, and my immediate response would actually be Aatrox jungle.
Okay.
So we could see something quite spicy. I'm sure Svenne is scratching his head, unsure of what to lock in into either of these matchups, but does land on the Renekton, which has a pretty good time into the set, okay time into the Aatrox, and I mean, the Aatrox is immediately swapped into Rift's hand, so this is telling me that this is going to be Set jungle into the Volibear. Now, this is a bit of it feels bad calling it an old school matchup. It was only 2 seasons ago, but when we had Set obviously released all the way back in 2020, I believe it was, Volibear jungle came into the mirror at a certain point during that year, and the common answer was Set into it. Volibear had a lot of HP. Set obviously does quite well to dunk high HP targets back into the rest of the team. And it seems like that might be the thought process here for Domino as tick over 20, and that means that will be the confirmed positions for the champions here. So Set jungle.
Interesting from a Domino. Will also be the Kai'Sa in that mid lane with the Ezreal down at marksman, which makes sense when you look at the matchups. Can happily sit back and farm, although giving Jinx an opportunity to farm is probably not really what you want to be doing with your evening. If you are Domino, Lightside obviously would love that. As the two compositions, why don't you just give us a vague idea, just briefly, of what these two team comps want to do before we get into game?
Lightside, front to back, loads of setup across the board in all of the lanes. They have decent scaling options, though I don't actually think they outscale Domino. Have to see, because Jinx is kind of a monster, and the backline access is fairly limited and conditional for Domino, but definitely very accessible. And yeah, for Lightside, I'm looking at Victor and saying, you've got Renekton, you've got Syndra, you've got Nautilus, pick a lane and just murder them to try and get things rolling. For Domino, definitely want to play a little bit safer in the early stages, looking towards the top side of the map to try and find some more favorable skirmishes, though it still will be very difficult. It's an outright brawl in the top side. And that matchup, very volatile, but again, at the moment, in a lot of games, you just don't see teams play around the top side in the early stages of the game. It's usually around the mid lane, it's usually around the bot lane. I think this might be the game where we see a little bit of change around that.
For me, right,
okay,
I am absolutely clueless to what's going on, because these two teams can, in theory, front to back, right? Yeah. You look at these compositions. My question is, can Domino survive the first 15 minutes in these lanes? Because, as you mentioned, they're set up across the board for them. They've got a Volibear who, at level 6, can make dives. If you're failing a dive post 6 as Volibear, you've done something very wrong.
Yeah.
But for Domino, we saw what AAB could do with the key damage components of this draft last game against Stropy Gaming. But they needed to get several items onto their belts. And for Lightside, it looks like they've got a composition that doesn't necessarily let that happen. But we found our way onto the Rift. Domino on the blue side, Lightside on the red. Both of these teams fighting, scrapping for those couple of playoff spots. Advantage Domino at the moment. But Chris needs to be careful that he doesn't get caught out. Might have spotted out touch and will be running for the hills. Doesn't want to get caught out by any shenanigans and safely gets away.
Nice attempt, but like you say, safely gets away. Nothing too much will occur here. And to reiterate the stakes here, Domino, they win this. And it's all but confirmed playoffs. Still results have to go their way, but one more win after this would also after this win, assuming they were to take down Lightside, it would bring them playoffs. For Lightside, they are in desperation mode right now. Probably have to win all remaining games in order to make it to playoffs. And given how the standings look above them, if they beat Domino in doing that, I feel like it would be a very tough ask for it to not be a tiebreaker at 9-9 to get in.
And I mean, we were talking about London United going into the show, about how a better team that you feel maybe could look to sneak into those playoff spaces. They'll be watching this game with great interest. For them, we were working out, we think probably, if you're a London United fan, you should probably be Domino's biggest fan. Because not only beating Lightside super important to your hopes of getting in, beating teams like Lucent next week would also be very good. And splitting wins across the board would make it more and more difficult for teams to sneak into playoffs unless they start winning every single game they've got left, which with strict for schedule is pretty unlikely as a decent chunk goes out of Shaolin. So you kind of need to pick a lane and stay in it, and they'll be keeping an eye and hoping against hope that it's Domino that can secure the victory here.
Yeah, exactly. We did some of the mental maths on how we want.
Bruce fell asleep for a second there.
Yeah.
Wake up, Reed. It's game 3. We got plenty more League of Legends left. As touch moves in, 10, burning low. Sadie moving forward, trying to get that first blood. One more rocket might be enough. The zap will secure the kill, and now turning his attention towards Chris. Being body blocked by Touch, dancing around, trying to get away if he can now. But a flash draw from Touch, the zap will be stepped around as Chris looking to run. Can he get away out of range long enough? There's got the anchor shooting, looking for the E, will get over the wall as Touch doesn't have flash, doesn't have ignite, might look for the dive, but goes the wrong way. Just probably gonna see if there's anything about. Will he get it? Yeah, he can! Touch secures the kill.
Oh, bated breath, that one, but Touch does manage to get that one in. And that's gotta feel bad for the Domino bot lane. Anything that goes right about is Sadie doesn't get the assist because it takes so long. Then is gonna do his damnedest to keep this way from crashing. Doesn't find the dredge line.
I've been saying for years that Nautilus is an assassin.
Yeah.
And people didn't believe me. Well,
exactly.
Look at him now. That's ripped. Needs to be a little bit careful. Svene building up that fury. Could be in one combination range of the Aatrox, but an excellent start for Lightside in the bot lane, who, with that Jinx and Nautilus combination, might look to try and just snowball things out of control.
Yeah, they definitely could. Jinx getting an early kill like that is really not what you want to see if you're playing against the Jinx and you don't have an Aphelios, so have to try and make something work. And actually, speaking of the Aphelios, it was something that was up and available.
I mean, everything was up and available in the boss, and Zeri was available.
Yeah. This was the choice of AD carry they wanted to run. Which for me, when I think about Chris, I think about like the Jin, lane bully, ranged, and turning into a bit of a monster in the later stages of the game. Not so much the Ezreal play. So let's see what can get done by Domino on this bottom side. Not exactly bleeding just yet, but this wave is stacking. Sidon is actually on his way down here to the bottom side. We'll see if this turns into maybe a bit of a dive. There's no summoner spells on Sadie nor Touch. This could be a pretty good opportunity if they're able to stack up this wave just a little bit more. If they crash it on the wave that's coming out of the base just now, it's a very, very good opportunity to deny Sadie this Jinx. A lot of resources. Let's see if they can get it done. I think it's definitely a very viable play to make happen.
For Domino, they're just trying to make this slowly build up. In the top side, you can see there's a deep invade going in from Zvictor and Fatty P, who are just taking away everything that they can get their hands on. Might look for a dive onto Ripped as well, who's just used that third knock-up and going to be in trouble. Svene getting the damage down will be the one taking up the tower for the moment, but can slice and dice away. Clean as you like. Zvictor with the kill in the bot side, though. Sidon moving towards, but can't find anything. That's Domino a little bit too far pushed.
Yeah, and I mean, they were getting the wave stacked up. It got broken quite heavily. Now it's just the cannon wave. They will crash this cannon wave, and now the dive will ensue.
Looking for it, grabs away Touch, nice stun, but the teleport's coming on down onto the tower. There's one. Sadie should be able to survive, looking towards Den, potentially looking for the kill with Fatty B. Nice stun, and it's going to be returned. Sadie securing one, not the dive that Domino would have necessarily wanted, but they do grab their first kill of the game.
Yeah, they go for touch because he's the lower HP target, but you just have to wonder why not go for Sadie. If you're Sidon, just walk further out, go for the ADC, because now Jinx still gets that entire wave and gets the XP by herself. So whilst this play doesn't necessarily look too bad, Jinx just got an additional kill and all of that XP underneath the tower for free. If we could see how close Sadie is to level 6, because yeah, I mean, almost a full level up on Chris. This is not really the position you want to be in. Right? Well, it's like Kai's got murdered by a bunch of CC. Nothing to really see that.
And this is exactly the kind of game that Lightside wanted to be in, because if they can get this game out of control before that 15-minute mark, there's little to no way for Domino to get back into it. And they've got late game tools themselves, of course. Look at the Jinx, look at the Syndra. In fact, we can look at the Syndra right now and see exactly what happened.
Yeah, and looks like Nautilus just sneaks in. Raya Sidon leaves. Yeah, easy setup as you like. Maybe Shaolin feeling a little bit overconfident that Sidon was just over the corner. Easy setup. Nothing else to say about it.
Really is that straightforward. And now on the top side of Ripton and Zvene going at each other. Zene's built himself up a comfortable lead in terms of farm, and of course that assist on the kill, the dive top as well. But Domino, things are looking mighty unpleasant moving forward, as Lightside seem to have control absolutely everywhere at the moment.
This is, I will say, definitely the game that Lightside needed, at least the early game, given recent performances. And it just feels, if you've got a Jinx, that's fed. 2-0, 60 CS. Not quite perfect CSM, but at the end of the day, very, very strong at this moment in time. Have to be able to pilot this one out. Though, again, I will say, I feel the scaling on Domino's side really isn't bad at all. Especially into the composition of Lightside. Very, very playable from large portions of the game, if not all of it. So, the reason I say that, 3 melee champions is 3 melee champions. Aatrox is going to do just fine. Typically, when you hear about Aatrox, you know, people will say he doesn't scale too great. And yes, he is definitely going to be outranged by Fatty Pete, by Sadie. This is an all-in, actually.
Oh, Chris needs to be careful diving away, but now it's Den who's the focus. The Alistair hasn't got 6, can't go unbreakable. There's the anchor, the snipe, the kill. And Sadie picks up another, looking towards Den. Won't be able to find him with the ultimate. Aside on moving on forward, gets the ultimate down. Interesting animation, but secures the kill onto touch nonetheless. Is looking to put the beat down on the Sadie as well. The shutdown double kill for Sidon might be what Domino needed to get back into the game.
Sidon really saves that bot side play. If Sadie and Touch get another 2v2 kill, you feel like the game's probably, I'm not going to say over, but it's going to be a disastrous way to have to pilot out of. And as I was saying, the scaling for Domino, it's not too bad, but the Jinx has to stay in control. The issue is, how in control will she stay when she's already got a Kraken Slayer before 10 minutes into the game? I'll give you my answer, not too in control. Domino, they're going to have to repeat that several times over if they want to ensure that this Jinx doesn't go too crazy. And in the mid lane, Shaolin kind of locked down here. A lot of vision's been controlled here by Lightside. In the mid lane, 5P had a bit of a free one in terms of the laning phase. And Syndra definitely maybe rising as a champion that can match this Kai'Sa in lane.
Potentially could be the solution that players have been looking for the Kai'Sa mid, which has been seeing more and more play. First as a counter pick, and then as just a general pick in its own right in multiple regions and at multiple levels. Touch just moving back down into the bot lane, and now off he goes again. He was thinking about being a laner for a second, but decided the lifestyle wasn't for him and will be backing off. But for Domino, what would you want to see from them? Because they are down 2,000 gold. Should they sit back and farm? Should they try and make something proactive happen? What's the game plan, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the setup just doesn't quite come as easily for Domino as it does for Lightside. Doesn't mean it's not possible. Just means maybe capitalize on moments like those where Sadie and Touch, for example, they just overstep a little bit, just go for a little bit of extra poke. Try and be there in those moments. If you're Sidon, for example, or maybe try and make your impact felt on the top side. It's not necessarily a lane that you're winning right now, but try and do something on these side lanes to push yourself, give yourself an advantage somewhere. Because right now, you're not winning in the mid lane. That's just been won by Svictor with this Rift Herald. Top lane, not winning because of that dive from earlier on. And the top lane, and the bot lane rather, you're just not winning at all. 2v2 is going firmly in the favor of the Jinx and Norless. Try and play away from that bottom side. Go into the top side if you have to. Just give yourself something to lean on. I think that's the important thing.
Ript and Svene just going to hang around in the top lane. Once again, don't really want to interact too much. They can take chunks out of each other, but it would have to be an outplay, you've got to imagine, for one of them to secure themselves a kill. Svene, probably the more favoured at the moment, just because of that additional assist and the wave or so he has to the good. Meanwhile, in the bot side, it's Lightside, who will secure themselves a second dragon. Infernal Soul will be the one in this game. That's really, really crucial. The first properly impactful dragon we're going to see today. And it's one apiece at the moment, so it's a long-term goal, but a goal nonetheless.
Yep, definitely a goal nonetheless. And a soul that both these teams utilize quite well, actually, is Ripped. He's on that third darkened spot, but still wins out on the trade. He's going to actually check into Sidon here. Let's see what work Sidon can get done. Dominus popped. That should be the walkaway from Svene. Doesn't have any support as the play actually being now matched on the bottom side. Domino, Chris and Denden, they're reading it quite well. As Victim's 5EP, they will actually just stop off here at the red buff. Minion wave thinned out. So no dive will happen. But now Sidon's in the mid lane. Could just end up dying here.
Gets the dunk down. Shaolin's turned up as well. Looking for a target. Paddy P is going to be the focus. We'll be able to secure it. Denden is alive as Sidon finally goes down to Zvictor, but he won't be able to find his way out as a double goes over to Shaolin on the Kai'Sa. Lightside's bot lane not fast enough to rotate up. But Touch might be looking for something. We'll only find Denden moving forward as Chris tries to get a little bit poked down, forcing away from that red ward. Touch takes a bit of a beating as well. Another positive exchange for Domino as they're fighting their way back into this one.
Yeah, and this is what I mean. Try and just be a little more proactive towards these lanes. You see 5P and Svictor trying to rotate down to the bottom side. Punish them for it. They do this time around. It feels like Domino is sitting on their hands a little bit. They do have agency. It is there. It feels like Lightside themselves, they've also slowed down. Svictor's not really had the craziest amount of impact directly on the lanes by himself. Been more centered around the farm end. Perhaps a more quiet game than I think it actually deserves to be honest with you. Very rare that I can say that about a Division 2 game, but Zvictor Sidon really trying to achieve too much in the early stages. But you can say it might just be playing into the mentality of these two teams right now. Lightside struggling recently, really not trying to make a mountain out of a molehill in any more of their games, and for Domino again, same kind of story, struggling. Touch with the mentality is still a little bit aggressive.
Wasn't able to find anything in the end, but Lightside could look for a play with Zvictor moving forward. Gets caught out on a ward as Sidon will also be there, but you can see Fatty P floating on down. Denden trying to get some CC down, looking to clear out this mini wave, make the dive a little bit more difficult. Teleport coming on through. Denden goes low, will be removed. It's Zvictor with the kill, as teleports from both sides will make this one a big old team fight. But Domino don't have health bars, don't have the members advantage. Forced to back away.
She can't deal with it. Lightside, they went out on this exchange. They find the dive. Denden rocket.
Chris able to shift away.
Does indeed just about shift away, but now Lightside, they'll pick up that tower. 100 gold apiece for everybody. 113. Not too bad. Second tower of the game, of course, the first one. Dropped in the mid lane with that Rift Herald. And really, if we could take a look at the individual golds. Yeah, 3k. Where are the biggest leads growing at the moment? Bottom lane, definitely the most noticeable one. Across the board, though, only really 300, 400 in it. Mid lane, 5e has a 500 gold lead, so the leads at the moment still incremental. Not too large just yet. But it's really just about Jinx being super far ahead of Chris on the Ezreal. Let's engage. Forces the flash away. Now Lightside
so-
should just be able to start this Herald for themselves.
Yeah, should be able to grab this one pretty for free. There doesn't seem to be anyone from Domino interested in contesting, and with the way that things are right now in terms of items in pocket, you don't blame them. There will be Victor securing that one, able to try and take some more territory, but Lightside already taking down 2 towers. That mid lane one has already gone. It's top lane that still has the outer standing. And you just got to feel a little bit worried for Domino at the moment there. About 2,500 gold down. Haven't seemingly got any winning lanes that they can super play around at the moment. It's not the hugest deficit that they've been in, even in recent weeks, but whether they'll be able to find their way back into it is the question of the hour.
Exactly. Domino, no strangers to being behind in games. A very rocky split. But when they've looked good, they've looked good. It's just when they've looked bad, they've looked quite bad.
Which means it's a story for Lightside as well, you've got to say, but Lightside definitely looking good in this game for large portions of it. Moving on to Dragon. First of the Infernals is in the top side. It's a 3v3. They've gained themselves an advantage here as well. The dunk down from Sidon will just see him die. And this is the thing. If Domino can't be winning even fights in the top side, they lose out Dragon in the bottom side. Where's the advantage for them? Where are they building something?
Yeah, exactly. That's the issue I had. They weren't doing anything on the bottom side. They were losing out in the 2v2. They just weren't being proactive on the top side. It just gives Lightside so much freedom to do what they wish. Anywhere on the map, really. And whilst, again, I'll hit on it, I feel like the scaling aspects of Domino's composition not too bad into what Lightside are running. Definitely, I feel Lightside's scaling is up there with theirs. I just feel like for Domino, it's a very playable draft. For a large portion of this game is now ultimate popped by Ripped. Will just mean that Sven8 disengages. Not going to go for a chase down. And Lightside, it feels like just slowly but surely picking apart this game, winning out on the side lane, winning out in the 2v2 earlier on. Jinx has 2 items. The only caveat for the bottom lane is that Chris' items are quite cheap, so he will catch up in item completions fairly soon. But one champion definitely deals more damage than the other champion in more cases than it doesn't. And I think you ask anybody, straightforward thinking in this meta will tell you Jinx still remains a monster, even on 12-5.
And will only get more monstrous as time goes on. Definitely going to be a focus for Domino in the later few team fights. Is going to be, how do we kill Sadie? How do we deal with Jinx? What's the game plan there? Because yeah, they've got a couple of tools, but they don't really have great point and click engage. The Alistair, of course, if they can find the Jinx, is the obvious answer. We'll have to see if that's an option. And if Lightside give them the opening, but meanwhile, just going to be working on that top tower, maybe taking it on this wave, maybe just getting it low enough to take in a future push. Mashallah moving forward towards Victor in the mid lane. Denden gets a knock up onto touch, but Zene's here. A lot of health as Denden goes unbreakable. Needs to be careful as they're on to Chris now. He's already used that arcane shift, gets cut down by Renekton. And Alistair goes the exact same direction. Teleport's now being utilized by both teams. But Domino don't have the members. It's a 3v5. I don't know if they really want to commit people into this one. Yes, touch goes low, but he gets a big shield, a big amount of health, and survives as Zene picks up Sidon. And now Lightside, 20 minutes into the game, look towards the Baron.
Yeah, on the dot, this is just a poorly time taken fight for Domino. And with that 2-item Jinx, they should be able to pick this Baron up for free. Herald, I think, was about to time out. Maybe just looking for a bit of pressure. Either way, won't get the charge off, but does it really matter? Baron will go down here for Lightside. And now they have 3 inner towers to knock down, which is just more standing gold for them. Look at the gold lead. 6,000 all of a sudden.
Good for Lightside, which is going into the game exactly what we said we wanted to see from them. This is a must-win game for them. Domino, also a very, very high priority game. They're not looking so great. And now for Lightside, burden of execution. What can they do with this first Baron buff? There are still towers that they can secure. They've only taken the outers so far, so inners may well be the focus, but they've got a good amount of gold in pocket across a lot of the important lanes. You see on the model of your screens just now. 1,000 in top lane, 1,000 in the jungle. Mid lane 1k is just huge leads across the board. Whether Domino are able to weather the storm for a few minutes longer, it's going to be a big question.
Just don't know if they can. Like you say, it's the big question. But it just feels any fight that Lightside have been taking, small skirmish or greater team fight like we saw in the mid lane, just will go in their favor. If we could swap back over to the items, I would love to see what Domino actually working with here. As 2 items are in for Shaolin. Luden's Echo still not stacked up that Manamune into the Muramana. Muramana is stacked for Chris and does have the Essence Reaver. So 2 items for both mid and AD carries. Top lane, even. Jungle, a bit of a disparity there. So Victor has that full-on Frozen Heart completed in comparison to Sinon's. Then that's still working towards a support item against Touch, but where the items truly matter, for now, Domino might still have a chance. A bit of a nose into a fight if they do take one, but I think it's still just going to be a little bit too difficult. At the end of the day, they're probably going to have to be checking into what I imagine is full fog down there in the bottom side river. No vision, just the red buff. And Ripped is up here with no teleport, holding on to Svene, who has TP, so this is a dragon that's just going to go over to Lightside.
Which is just one more nail in the coffin you've got to feel. As for Domino, struggling to see which lane to get back into this one with, how they managed to get through what Lightside have built, because it's a very easy to execute draft. They've got themselves ahead early, they got themselves ahead often. And now they'll be taking down that inner tower, looking towards the inhibitor. With these Baron Empowered minions still standing, a decent amount of damage onto Sadie on the Jinx. Domino still just can't find an avenue to capitalize.
Nope, they cannot. Now Lightside just going lane to lane now. Remnants of the monster game, actually. Not going to quite be able to take down that mid lane tier 2 for now, but they will strip away more jungle camps. Baron buff does dissipate, so that'll be the end of the siege, but it achieves about as much as they really need. A little more pressure on the side lanes, that extra dragon. And now Domino, 4 minutes time, they're going to have to contest that dragon or they will give over soul. And what they're going to have to contest into is a 3-item Jinx at least.
Which, you know, not a bad place to be for Lightside. 3 items on Jinx. Seems pretty decent to me, as they will decide what they want to be doing next. And really, it's hard to see them overextending enough to give Domino the escape, the angle, to make a positive play, because as the league gets bigger and bigger, the narrowness of the advantage that Domino could have, even with an overstep, even with a 4v5, even with lower health bars because of the poke that Domino can still put out, it just makes you question in what situation they can actually get back into the game. And
it feels it has to be a bit of an overstep.
Well, it has to be quite a big overstep at this point.
It has to be a massive error.
I mean, Lightside haven't been on league winning form in recent weeks, but they've certainly picked things up today, and unfortunately for Domino, haven't been on the pace. So Lightside, just keep your eyes on how they close this one out, though. What they decide to do, in what nature they decide to try and end. If it's slow, methodical, if they try and spread themselves, if it's too thin. We've got Teleport coming in for Ripped, but I don't really know to what end.
Yeah, me neither. As, like I said, slow bleed out Ripped will be spotted out on this wall. This is a very, very long flank. As Svene, just on the bottom side uncontested, someone's going to have to come and match him. Looks like it will be Ripped in the end. We'll get a considerable chunk out of that tower. It's like Domino will go.
He's looking for Sadie, gets a decent amount of damage through, but we'll just get blown up. There's too much CC, and outside of moving forward, Chris moving forward, Den trying to find something, but the health bars are too big, the backline's too safe, the damage is too much. As Victor picks up Alistair, Chris's side on managed to get away, but teleport coming on through. Chris, you're gonna need to use your arcane shift. Buddy will be able to dive back, but the dominance is too much. The killing spree's there, and that feels like last chance saloon. The desperation was clear The long flank was too far. And Lightside pick up another positive play.
Yeah. Pick up another positive play, and they have the Baron to retreat you off the back of this as well. Shaolin's still dead for 10 seconds alongside Den Den. Chris obviously died a little bit after those two, so just about 20-second death time on Lightside. Second Baron of the game, it's going to eclipse the Dragon Soul spawn up. And you have to imagine, with this Baron, they will get a lot more than what they got with the first one.
Could even get the game with it, some might say.
Yeah.
If they play that properly. There's only a minute towards Infernal Dragon. Of course, that would be Soul for Lightside if they can secure it, so might want to just play around for a minute, grab that one, make team fights absolutely impossible for Domino. Because I don't even know if there's an overextend angle anymore. I don't know if Domino would be able to actually abuse anything, as there's another engage coming through from the side, and he has to disengage Shaolin, and will just be deleted for it. Dies for the sins of his mid laner. And Lightside taking everything. The performance has been so confident for them. Going to be able to tie up Domino, give themselves the head-to-head as well, which could be massive moving forward. Lightside coming online potentially just at the right moment in the season. Domino didn't choose their time well to go into freefall. And now moving away, Infernal Dragon flies down onto the Rift. Should be Soul. And once Soul is secured, I just do not see a way for Domino to get back into this one.
Nope, me neither. I don't think they can. It would have to be one hell of a blunder from Lightside, who, like you said, having a very, very strong performance. Domino in freefall mode at the moment. And you hear it from teams on interviews at either spectrum of the split, either at the start or the end. At the start, always best to lose games now. Get the losses out of the way, learn from them, improve, win throughout the split. Towards the later stages, free falling at the end is just so scary because it depends where you are. For Domino, in a position where they could miss playoffs. Still, it's all well and good if, you know, Munster were to go on to lose all the rest of their games. They're all but confirmed first place. There's still, of course, a possibility that Knaves can catch up, but the reality of the situation is in more cases than not, they probably don't. But Domino, they aren't Monster. They aren't 13-3. They can't afford to drop too many more games, because they still need to get their head above water for playoffs. Lightside looking to breach the water after falling just briefly below it. Bring themselves parry with Domino, with this Baron buff, with the Infernal Soul. They should be able to crack open the base at the bare minimum, and it looks like they'll do that through the top side this time. Yeah,
it's going to be top side broken. The inhibitor tower's down. The inhibitor will likely go down immediately afterwards. Taking a little bit of poke from Domino, but it's unlikely to be too much, as it looks like they're just going to force these minions to start attacking that Nexus tower. Domino need to defend their base, because once those Nexus towers start falling, the game becomes very, very difficult. Den with the engage, looking to get something from a Lightside, but the damage numbers just aren't there. The health bars are just too strong. Shaolin moves forward, manages to get a shutdown onto one, but one is it. The health bars are looking low, but Domino only have one left. Is Sidon on Fountain the set? Oh, it's going to have to be something heroic. The Baron buff is gone, but it looks like Lightside are just going to be able to close out this game in short order. Put themselves back into playoff contention well and truly. Domino, lots of work needs to be done. Very, very confident performance from Lightside.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you say, loads of work needs to be done. Dominoes just aren't falling in their favor right now. It's tough to say what's going on with Domino at the moment, but performances not really on the up and up. For Lightside, though, a very important win to pick up, like we said. In a bit of freefall mode, like Domino have been and still seem to be. This is a much better looking Lightside. Playing through that Jinx into an Ezreal lane is very, very simple. And once that 2v2 just went in their favor and Domino weren't really trying to force the issue on the top side of the map, it just felt like a bit of a freebie for them to walk through here.
It felt very, very easy for them. We're going to jump to a short break. When we come back, we'll be speaking to both of these sides, so don't go anywhere. We'll see you in a few minutes.